Good morning, everyone, from the Mediterranean in the north of Israel. I had something on my heart today that it's a tough subject, but it's one that's really important. Some years ago, I was getting ready to go on a dance ministry tour from Israel to the nations. And the strangest thing happened. I was at my congregation, and this guy that I've never seen before was headed over towards me to talk to me. And I looked at a couple of the elders in the congregation, and they gave me a thumbs up, like, we know this guy totally. You can trust him. He's very prophetic. And so the guy came over to me. There were others around me, and he gave me a very powerful word. And he said, God is your covering. You don't need another covering. God is your covering. And it was just interesting. We have to pay attention to the timing when it's interesting. When God speaks something, timing is key. I was just getting ready to go by myself on a dance ministry tour. And this guy that I had never met before, he said, God is your covering. And I bring this up to say that recently, a couple of people in my life have wanted me to do something that they have done that was very helpful for them. And I have absolutely no witness in my spirit. Now, I absolutely believe in discipleship and mentoring. And I had many different people along the way after I got saved at different seasons of my life disciple me, and it was absolutely wonderful. And I've had different women mentors over the years, and that was wonderful. But as far as covering, our relationship with God, it's a relationship, it's a love affair, it's so personal. God brings me into this world, and God brings me out of this world, and I am accountable to Him and to Him only. I need to live to please my Maker, not to live to please man. And Proverbs 29:25 says the fear of man is a snare. It is such a great snare. A lot of us are in bondage to the fear of man, and that's idol worship, and that is a sin. We've traded one sin for another. Sin is sin is sin. We have to die to the fear of man so that we can live for God. If we're living for the approval of man, we are not living for the approval of God. I hide myself in God. I am deep in the bosom of God. This is God's will, and I want to get deeper and deeper and deeper and live out of His heart. And it's so profound that Yeshua, Jesus, invites us into His heart to live from His heart. It's astounding, really, if you think about it. Do not get caught up with the things of man by religiosity. Religiosity will not bring you to heaven. I'm sorry, friends, but it will not. Becoming more Jewish will not bring me to heaven. Solely the blood of Yeshua, the sacrifice that He made for me. He went to that execution stake for me, and He became my sin covering, my atonement, my kippurah, so to speak. He did it all. But it doesn't mean anything unless I say, God, I recognize that you sent Yeshua, God's salvation, for me to bridge me back to God, because there was a big break in that relationship because of sin that's come into this world. And we have to say, I recognize and I receive my sin covering, the free gift from God, Yeshua. There will never be another atonement. He did it all. But it doesn't mean anything unless we call upon Him. And now we live the rest of our days to please God. And it is true that as you get closer to God, you will lose people along the way for whatever reason. People mock God, people don't like God, people hate God, people say they love God, but they don't want to go any further, whatever it is. But we can expect to be persecuted. We can expect to be left. Absolutely. God is our portion. He is a God that is more than enough. Absolutely. He brought me into this world to bring me out of this world. If while I'm pleasing God, men are pleased and men feel good and men are happy and men, that's wonderful. But I don't live to please man. I live to please God. And I want to say this. Recently, the Lord has led me to reach out to believing congregations in the land of Israel to help bless the Tabernacle of David Prophetic Dance Center, which is the only worship dance center specifically for dance worship, which brings healing and restoration, salvation, deliverance. Dance worship is not just the obvious joy that some people understand. It's an expression of joy in God. It's so much more. Da'enu, it would have been enough, right? It's deep prayer and intercession. It brings healing and restoration, even salvation and deliverance. It is powerful. Absolutely. I once heard it referred to as the special forces of God's army. Very powerful. So we were made for worship. That is our number one role before God. And our two innate gifts, the voice and the body in motion. Dance worship is simply praise that moves. That's not stationary. These are two very powerful instruments of praise, which make them powerful weapons of warfare. And you are a force to be reckoned with in Yeshua when you are using the gifts that He's called you to. And if you can speak and if you can move out in these gifts. Very, very, very powerful. Don't let anyone keep you silent. And this world and the cares of man has kept us silent. But God says, rejoice, sing to me, shout for joy, make a joyful noise to Elohim, dance before the Lord, and so on and so on. The shofar and the timbrels and the harp and all of it. But our two innate gifts, the voice and the body, weapons of warfare. We are in a spiritual war. Absolutely, we're in the Lord's army. So live for the approval of God and not man, and Yeshua is your covering. God bless you from the north of Israel.